Hey guys, today I wanted to do a foster care question and answer kind of session. Historically, I have shared a lot of our foster care journey over the last, it's almost 2 years now. It's 2 years since we started the approval process. I've been sharing a lot of that over on my blog, but kind of lately I've just kind of enjoyed the video format a lot more. So recently I shared a video over on my booktube channel sharing some of my favorite foster care books, as well as just a little bit of an update on our foster care journey. But I thought this kind of seems like the best place for it. This is kind of like what my blog has turned into, is this YouTube channel where I'm sharing all sorts of things about like online income, fostering, adoption, life stuff. It's just kind of like a catch-all. It just is exactly what my blog was. That's what this space is becoming. And originally I was going to do a foster care update, but I feel like every time I update, or I'm about to update, we're waiting for a little bit more information because things could completely change. I shared that update on my booktube channel maybe a month ago now, and then things changed the week after that, and then things changed the week after that. And it just seems like when is a good time to even share stuff, because whatever you say could be irrelevant like in 2 days. So I will maybe do an update soon. I'm kind of waiting to hear a few things, and so we'll see when that comes. But I do want to use this channel and this space to raise awareness for foster care, so I thought I would kind of do more of a question and answer session today. I've got a couple questions that we get asked a lot, I hear a lot, so I thought I would tackle those ones first. Okay, let's just start with the hardest part, because a lot of people ask like, what has been the hardest part of fostering? And I feel like it has changed. Like sometimes the hardest part one month is not the hardest part the next month. I mean, that's kind of like life in general. So maybe I'll talk about a few things, but definitely right now for me, the hardest part is knowing that our first placement, we had two brothers who we called Buzz and Woody online. We know that a few months after they were reunited with family, they were back in care. But at that point, we already had R2-D2, and so we couldn't take them in. Actually, we didn't even know that they were back in care. Normally, our social worker is supposed to let us know, and I don't know why, but she didn't. So we kind of didn't even have really the choice to take them in, and they weigh so heavy on my heart. They were only in our home for about 3.5 months. And it's been over a year since they were here, and they were a lot of work, and they have trauma now on top of the trauma that they had when they were already here, and they weigh on my heart so much. And I know that at this time it's probably not best for us to take them in for a variety of different reasons. I know that, but I still, like, my heart breaks for them like every day. And the hardest part is just knowing that like these boys are out there and they're, you know, not being tucked in by a mom every night. Like, they're not even in a home situation. They're in a group home, and that it breaks my heart. They are young, and that is just my biggest struggle, and like my biggest prayer every day is just for God to comfort them, because I can't do it right now, and He can do it better, and hopefully they will find a family that will care for them. So yeah. Definitely the hardest part. There is a term called compassion fatigue, which is really just, you know, getting tired because you have so much compassion, and yeah, thinking about them, that phrase fits very well. A question I have gotten quite a bit is like, how do you say no to a placement? Yeah, kind of just that general idea. Like, we have been in a few situations where they have presented us with like two similar situations. There's like this case and this case, and you get a little bit of information about each, and then you have to pick one. Guys, this is so hard, because like by picking one, you're also like choosing to not pick the other one. And I know like you really can't take them all in. You can't. But it's still hard to know that like there's other ones out there that you've kind of chosen not to take. And there have been a few times where we've just like blatantly said no, not at this time, that is not going to be a good fit for us. So the way that works like in our province is that doesn't really like hinder our ability to say yes to future placements, unless we, I guess, maybe consistently like just said no forever without any reason. That would be maybe change things, but at this point it's like, you know, if you just feel like something's not a fit for your family, then they'll call you the next time they have something that like fits your requirements. So it is hard to do, but it's also sometimes necessary. Like there have been times where there have been kids with a lot of like medical appointments or like super high medical needs, and just with us homeschooling and having other kids in the house, it didn't feel like something that we had the time to drive. The medical appointments are like at least like 45 minutes one way, and you know, to do that often, like multiple times a week while trying to homeschool, that just doesn't work for our family. But there are people out there that will work for. So it's easier to say this when you haven't seen the kids. So like thinking about the hardest part, and Buzz and Woody, it's easier if you can say no to kids that you haven't seen before. When you've seen their faces, it makes it so much harder. And it's not easy to say no to a placement, but it's also, you have to think about what's best for your entire family, and even what's best for the kids in care. Like maybe there is a family that will come up after you who will be better suited for them. So I just try to keep that in mind. But yeah, we have definitely had to say no to a few placements before, and it's not a fun situation, but it is necessary. I often get asked about vacation stuff, like can you guys go on vacation with the kids and that kind of thing. And I don't know how much it varies from like place to place, province to province, like in the States, anything. But here we can pretty much do anything vacation wise within our province. But if we are to leave our province, then we need permission from social services. So any kind of trip outside of the province, or especially like outside of the country, would need special permission. And we have not yet done that because pretty much we've been fostering the entire time that COVID has been going on. We started just before that, so we haven't had any trips. But I think it's like fairly easy for them to say yes. It kind of just depends where the situation's at. Like if kids are about to be reunited with family, then maybe they'd be like, can you just wait till this is over, or like whatever. But I don't think they actually say no very often. And then kind of like on that same vein, people often ask about respite. So I think we technically get like 2 weeks of paid respite per year, where it doesn't deduct from the money that we get fostering or something, I think is how it works. And we can use these people who are like the ministry has approved to be respite, kind of like babysitters, but like a little bit of a step up. We can use them to watch kids for up to 2 weeks of the year. But personally, it's not something that we have done, nor do we really plan on doing. Maybe like there might be a situation in the future where we would do this. But for the most part, I know a lot of people use like respite if they go on a vacation and they leave the foster kids behind. That's just not a situation I feel comfortable with, because if some kids are in your home and they end up like maybe even staying with you permanently, how would you explain to them like, oh yeah, this is when we went on vacation and we left you behind? And I mean, if the ministry says no, like that's a different situation, but like I couldn't choose to leave the kids behind. We are a foster family. We're doing this together as a family, and we want the kids to feel like they are a part of the family. So respite is not something we have done, but it is something that is available, and I do know lots of people that have used it. Okay, and then the last question for this Q&A at least is, are you going to adopt the kids? And like, what about like foster to adopt? So in our province, there actually is no foster to adopt program. I do know that there are like provinces in Canada that have it, but ours is not one of them. So we are not fostering to adopt, and even adoption in our province is very low, because a lot of, I think the stat is like 95% of Indigenous children in foster care in our province, of 95% of children in foster care in our province are Indigenous. So even when birth families kind of like lose their rights, the kids are underneath a Indigenous band, and so that band has a say on what happens to them. So pretty much sometimes they are adopted out, for sure. That does happen, but not super frequently, and the government and bands like frown upon it. So more often they go into be like a long-term ward, or something called PSI, which is like a person of sufficient interest. We are getting close to that point with one of our kids, so we'll see how that goes. We've never been through this process before, and even then I've been doing the research as to like the difference between them two, and it's kind of confusing. I would love to be able to, like, if our province had a foster to adopt program, I would love that, because it is hard to not know from week to week like what's going on. So that, like, okay, we are like fostering with the intention to adopt would be a little bit more final, and that would be like easier to wrap my brain around mentally. But our province doesn't have that program, so we're just playing it by ear. If our kids that we have end up becoming available to adopt, like, we would do that for sure. It's just a matter of whether or not they are. That's not really in our control. Okay, I think that's all for the questions for today. I would like to do some more of these like foster care Q&As, and I'm also going to do an adoption one, like international adoption one in the future. So if you have questions for me, leave them below, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching.